Hey there everybody, my name is Kat Bowser. I'm your resident fantasy therapist and welcome back to my channel. Those of you here for the first time, welcome. My name is Kat Bowser. I'm a licensed therapist. I'm also a writer working on my first 2 novels, one a standalone, one the start of a series. And on my channel, I like to talk about what I consider to be the heart of writing, and that's the characters. And the heart of the characters is their psychology. So that's the angle I like to take with most of the things I talk about on my channel. So today I am continuing what I have been calling the Week of the Storm, which is basically me celebrating the release of one of my friend Marion Blackwood's 3rd novel. It comes out next Monday. So I had decided that this week I wanted to dedicate my videos to her series, the Oncoming Storm series, because I think it's amazing and I think more people need to know about it. Hey everybody, sorry this video is coming a bit late. Sometimes technology sucks, but this is going to be the final video in my Week of the Storm series that I have been doing to celebrate Marion Blackwood's upcoming novel, and it comes out this Monday for ebook. She's going to be released the paperback and the hardback a little bit later. So today I thought the best way to end this series would be with an interview with the author, and she was kind enough to answer some questions for me. Because like I said, technology sucks, I can't do a video one, but she did answer a total of 16 questions for me, which I will be sharing with you guys here. And as always, I hope you guys have enjoyed this week thus far, and we'll check out her books. So let's just jump into it. So first question, what is it about fiction writing that draws you to it? Marion responds with, the simple answer would be that I love telling stories, but if I go a bit deeper, I guess I like writing fiction for the same reason that I enjoy reading it, an escape from reality. When I write fiction, I get to go on amazing adventures, and I also get to decide what happens along the way, and I love that. Totally agree with this one. Escape from reality is such a fun part of writing. Next question. Every writer has their favorite tropes or traits to include in stories. What are some of yours? What make those tropes appealing to you? Marion responds, definitely morally gray characters. Even before I started writing them myself, I liked reading about those kind of characters. What I like about them is that they are such complex people. Even though their actions might be frowned upon by heroic characters, they have their own moral code and reasoning behind their decisions, and I find that interesting. Well, those of you that know me, this is basically digging into the psychology of characters, so I definitely am behind this one too. Next question. What triggered the idea for the Oncoming Storm series? Marion responds, my strange sleeping habits. It usually takes between 1 and 3 hours for me to fall asleep every night, so eventually I started creating stories in my head to help me sleep. And as I mentioned, I always like shady characters, so I started imagining this badass knife-throwing thief doing all kinds of cool things, and then it grew from there. That's awesome. I love that. Next question. Aside from Storm herself, who have been some of your favorite characters to write? Shade is definitely one of my favorite characters to write, she says. He's so much fun because he has a lot of layers. You never really know what his endgame is, and if he does things because he cares or if he's simply manipulating events for his own personal gain. That kind of secrecy is a lot of fun to write. Then he's, of course, also handsome, powerful, and mysterious, and who doesn't love fictional men like that? Shade is actually one of my favorite characters that shows up in this story, and you can tell that she likes him too, so that's great. Next question. What kind of characters are most difficult to write? Marion responds, I have a hard time writing female characters in need of rescue. Women in fairy tales who are rescued by valiant men were never my favorite when I was growing up. Instead, all my favorite Disney princesses were women who saved themselves, and everyone else too, like Mulan. The damsel in distress characters have never really resonated with me, which is why weepy women who need a man to save them are very rare in my books. I can definitely see this angle. I personally don't mind a few damsel in distress characters, but when they override the story, yeah, it definitely does not contribute very well. So that's great. Next question. What settings are most fun for you to explore? Marion responds, I actually like exploring most settings. Writing a rundown underworld tavern is as fun as writing a sparkling palace. I often see settings very clearly in my head, but something that really brings it to life for me is sense, so I've started to include more of that when I write. This is great. Smell is a sense that I don't see a lot in stories, and I definitely noticed it in her books, and it does bring a new level of realism to a place. It really helps you picture it. So that's awesome. Next question. Your stories are told from Storm's point of view. Why did you opt for first person? Marion responds, I chose first person because I like getting inside a character's head. Storm's thoughts and feelings are always present, and I feel like that makes it easier to get to know her. In some way, it makes her feel more like a real person to me. It also ties into the morally gray aspect of her. Since she is the one telling the story, she can also explain her own reasoning behind what she does in a way that is difficult in third person. This is interesting because these are the first books in a long time I've read that are in first person that I really like. I usually don't like first person, but these books are great, and I think it was the best choice for all these reasons that she's mentioning, because especially with a morally gray character, the important thing is to show all aspects of their character, and first person really lets you do that. Next question. Why do you feel people are drawn to your stories, or what do you hope pulls them in? Marion responds, this is a very difficult question to answer, but I at least hope that the characters pull people in. I try to create complex characters who have strengths, weaknesses, dreams, feelings, and secrets that make them feel real. And then hopefully readers get attached enough to them that they want to read more. Well, I'd say you definitely have accomplished that, Marion. Next question. You've got a series going on 4 books now. Was that always the plan? What changed, if not? Marion responds, yes and no. Yes, the plan was always for a series of 7 books in total, but that changed and then changed back again. When I wrote the first book, and before I published it, the plan was for a series. But then on my launch day, I received a review that basically said the idea was good, but everything else, characters, world-building, narration, voice, was not. I will be completely honest and say that it almost broke me. I almost quit writing completely. When I had finally talked myself off that ledge, I decided not to continue the Oncoming Storm series because I thought no one would like it. I spent a few months scraping together the pieces of my shattered self-confidence, and while I was doing that, more people read the book. I eventually realized that there were quite a few people who actually loved the book, and that maybe I shouldn't let that one person who didn't like it decide what kind of books I wrote. So then the 7-book series was back on track again. That's great. I'm so glad you stuck with it because, like I said, I have not loved a series this much since like high school. One of the hardest things about being a writer is the feedback sometimes. Some people are needlessly cruel, and I'm glad that you were able to build your confidence back up because it's definitely worth it. Next question. What has been the challenges of writing a series as opposed to a standalone? Marion responds, the most challenging thing for me was probably keeping all the details straight. When I started writing the second book, I quickly realized that I'd forgotten some of the details. Did that room have double doors or just one door? Did I specify the eye color of that side character in the first book? Those kind of questions kept popping up, so that's when I made what I call my master file, where I keep all that information. Otherwise, I would never have been able to remember all that from one book to the next. Speaking as someone who's also writing a series, this is real hard. I think the master file idea is great. I have kind of one on my own. Mine is on a separate file on my computer. So yeah, this is hard, but I think it also helps make the series feel more complete when we do it. So great job with that. Next question. Assassins, thieves, and more abound in your books. Can you talk a little bit about the creation of the underworld? Marion responds, as I've mentioned before, I really like writing and reading about shady characters with moral compasses that don't quite point north, so that's why the underworld became a central part of my books. I find it fascinating that those kind of characters have their own way of viewing the world and also their own rules that govern it. The Thieves Guild play by one set of rules and the Assassins Guild by another, but then they have the general underworld rules that encompass them both, but don't apply to the ordinary workers in the city. Creating complex characters in societies like that is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to read too. This is actually, I love this aspect of your world, because it does make it feel real. And I think this is something that a lot of writers don't necessarily skip over, but they don't go into it as deep as maybe they should. So I have no problem believing that this world is real, and this is one key element as to why. Next question. What is the hardest aspect of world building? What comes most naturally? Marion responds, the aspects that come most naturally is probably what the world looks like, and also everything that affects how the characters interact with each other. The hardest aspects are the more detailed explanations for how it all works, like how a city gets the different types of food or wares that they use. Yeah, world building's complex. You think you have all the details figured out, and then you're writing a plot and you're like, oh, this is kind of important, isn't it? So totally get that. I think for the most part, Marion handles this very, very well. I don't think there's ever been a point in the stories where I've stopped and said, well, wait, this doesn't make sense. So that's great. Next question. Your speed is astounding. What is your secret to writing so quickly? Marion responds, thank you. I would say that there are two things to it. One is that I always outline the scenes beforehand, so when I sit down to write, I already know what I'm going to write and what I need for that particular scene. That makes it easier to increase my speed once I sit down. The other and biggest reason is that I sacrifice a lot for it. I have sacrificed all my hobbies, I don't have a social life, and I barely sleep. Basically, if I'm not at my day job, I'm working on my books. Not very healthy, I suppose, but until I can write full time, I have to sacrifice something. Kudos. I think finding time to write is the hardest thing for most writers. So I definitely give you credit for this, because that cannot be easy. I tend to like my sleep, so I am envious of the way you're able to keep writing with not a lot of sleep. Next question. Gray characters are abundant in your stories. Can you discuss some of the importance of their moral codes? Marion responds, to me, it's important that my morally gray characters have their own sense of what is right and wrong. Otherwise, they simply become one-dimensional villains. There are, of course, things they are willing to do that a heroic character wouldn't even consider, but it's important they have a reason for doing it, one that makes sense to them. They also have to have other character traits that make up for their bad ones. Protecting the people they love is probably my favorite personality trait to balance any morally gray acts. This is another thing I think that really draws me to these characters is, again, this is based in my love of psychology. Everybody has a moral code for a reason. Everybody makes the choices they make for a reason. In therapy, we actually say you make the best choice you can in the circumstances you can at the moment that you can. And basically what that means is that each moment is different. Each moment, there's different stressors, there's different aspects going on, so there's lots of things to consider. And I think morally gray characters, that's especially true because they have their own viewpoint of the world, and it doesn't necessarily stay the same depending on what's going on. Next question. Do you have any favorite pieces of dialogue or scenes, spoiler free naturally? Marion responds, my favorite scenes are probably any scene with Storm and Shade. They are both very similar but also different, and it's so much fun to see them try to outmaneuver and challenge each other while also understanding each other in a way the other characters don't. I definitely agree with this. These are probably my favorite scenes to read in the books, is anytime these two characters are together, I know it's going to be entertaining. And last question. Your world continues to expand. Can you give a hint or tease of what's to come? Oh yes, the world of the Oncoming storm is about to get a lot bigger in the coming books, Marion promises us. Without spoiling too much, I can say that we will meet some of the other nations, and what they will do will affect our sarcastic thief and her friends a lot. But who they are and what they want, I will leave unsaid for now. That's all I need to hear. I am so looking forward to these next few books. As you guys know, her third book comes out on Monday, the 24th, in ebook format. Paper book and hardback will follow. She also has another book, book 4, coming out in October that I will give you guys info on as soon as I have info on it. So thank you, Marion, for answering these questions for me. I hope that this week has inspired some people to check out your work, because it is definitely worth it. Like I said, I haven't been this excited about a series in a long time, and it's great to have that feeling again. So thank you guys for chiming in for this whole week. Sorry this last video ended up being a day late, but yeah, that's technology for you. As always, if you have comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them below and I will get to them as soon as I can. Next week, I'll go back to my regular schedule, which is one video at the beginning of the week, one video at the end of the week. If you don't want to miss when I upload, make sure you subscribe and ring the bell so you'll get notified whenever a new video goes up. And make sure to give Marion some love on Monday and check out her books because they are awesome. And until next time, stay safe and you guys have a good one.